Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Abruzzi ANZCAR Cup here on the SimShed Network. I hope you're all doing well and ready for this race here at Texas, where we are going to be having a bit of a fight tonight, a bit of a Mexican standoff, a bit of a Texas standoff, I should say, more between some of the drivers. Joining me up here in the booth tonight is Mr. JP. How are you going, JP?
Carl, I'm doing really well, thanks. Really looking forward to tonight. I don't know what tonight's going to bring at Texas Motor Speedway. I haven't seen around here yet, or if I have, it was that long ago that I can't remember what happened. So yeah, looking forward to it. Things are really hotting up at the tail end of this series. So it promises to be I think a good night of racing.
Yeah, it should be a pretty fun one tonight. Texas is a pretty fast track. One of the faster tracks out there when it first made Texas Motor Speedway a 1.5 mile oval. It was a little bit too fast, so there's been some slight changes and slight tinkering and slight modifying to the track just to bring those speeds down a little bit, so drivers don't black out. But there's been resurfaces since we were last here as well, and it's changed the way the track is. So it should be a pretty high grip track, so you shouldn't see too much in the way of tyre wear tonight, but fuel is going to be the main thing that these guys are going to be looking at. Some relatively longer runs tonight of around about the sort of 45 to 55 sort of area we should be looking at. So that should mean we'll see some pit stops coming in, at least 2 to 3 sets of pit stops tonight.
And so we should probably be seeing a bit of strategy play. Unfortunately, last week the Mitch Motorsport guys tried a strategy call or put a strategy call down that didn't quite go their way, and it went the way of Ed Foster and the JP Simshed guys. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure these guys are up for redemption this week.
Yeah, that's it. Last week, of course, they stopped and didn't take tyres. We actually missed that one on the broadcast, so apologies for that one. But we saw them dropping off after the row green flag pit stops, where they stayed on their old tyres and they just lost a lot of speed there and couldn't really get back to the front. But tonight, things could change as well. We're in round 8 of the chase, of course, so it's coming towards the end of the season. So this is really the important part of the season to have things going your way. With only 2 more races left at Martinsville and Phoenix, it's getting tighter up at the top of the field, which currently Edward Foster leads with a 3-point advantage over Jason Martin. Hamish Gallagher is third with 32 points down on the leader. Just behind Hamish Gallagher is Jason Hartigan, who's going to want to try and get up into that top 3, as he's only 34 points down from the leader, so 2 behind Hamish Gallagher. It's a very close battle there, as Josh Micklemore is only 1 point behind Jason Hartigan. Michael Skerlock, 5 points behind Josh Micklemore. Danny G is a bit further behind with 27 points in 7th place. 8th place we have Stephen Williams. 9th, Norman Clark. Brad Allison is in 10th, and then Matt Hunter is in 11th. So those guys are going to be battling it out for the sort of last sort of areas of the chase as well, because it's a relatively tight battle between them. So it's going to be interesting to see how the battles go across the grid. But obviously, Foster, like he said last weekend, it's easier being the chaser rather than the chasee, and now he's being chased for that championship lead this weekend.
Yeah, he's had a couple of rounds that went his way. Some really canny strategic calls that have placed him at the top of the table. And only with a handful of rounds to go, you can bet your bottom dollar that he's not going to want to give up that lead very easily.
No, that's it. And we've seen he's had a very strong finish to the season, going all year without a win up until the final stages of this year. And he's managed to get 4 in the last few races, which is an impressive amount. Just going back to Jason Hartigan, he's looking for his 50th Cup victory, his 50th ANZCAR victory, sorry. And it's just not coming for him at the moment. He's sort of been stuck a little bit, trying to get that victory to come his way. He's had 6 this season, but that 50th is just avoiding him. Sometimes the record books can be a little bit hard to get into, but definitely strong. And I imagine we're going to see him pulling out all the stops here tonight and trying to get up there, trying to regain that points lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he's going to be doing everything that he can to get back to the front of the to the points table, and we're just about to start with qualifying. I think practice is just about finishing up, and we'll be getting into qualifying soon.
Yeah, qualifying will be underway very, very shortly. Track conditions tonight, as we see on the screen, 28 degrees Celsius out there, so not the hottest track. It was much hotter last time out. So heat's not going to play too much into this one. This qualifying session is going to be a tricky one because Texas is a track that it's easy to not make mistakes on. It's one of those tracks that's quite easy to drive in a way, but you can make a mistake going into turn one. You've got to be perfect around every single corner, and that's very hard to do, especially on these qualifying laps, of course, because you only get 2 laps to set a time. If you just graze the wall, or if you have a poor entry coming off the corners, it can cost you those milliseconds that are vital for these qualifying laps. As we see Jason Martin coming out of the pit lane now, getting ready to go. Up at the front, we'll have Danny G just coming up for his first attack of the lap. Looking pretty good for him. Joshua Carroll-Walden also looking pretty good at the moment. So those times are going to start coming in very shortly. As we see Danny G cross the line, that's going to give us our first time of the session. And he's quickly taken off the pole by Foster and Joshua Carroll-Walden, who've set a very good first lap time. Second lap might be slightly quicker, just with the nature of this circuit. So we'll probably see those guys setting a slightly faster sectors through this second lap. We'll see if they can manage to beat those times. But it's all about trying to get those extra tenths of a second. It's milliseconds in this.
Yeah, and you can see them trying, and Josh Mickelmore is on an absolute flyer at the moment. He's got 2 purple sectors. Let's see where he finishes up. That puts him into second place.
Yeah, a little bit lost just through that final sector there, just going into the front straight into the start-finish straight, and that's cost him a little bit there. So big moment for Mickelmore, just having that little bit of momentum loss, and that's just cost him just that tiny bit. He just had a little bit of a twinge of the car going through turns 3 and 4. The front end just got a little bit grippy on him, and then the tail just stepped out a little bit from the looks of it. And that was it was the tiniest amount, but that's cost him a couple of tenths of a second, which has just dropped him behind Foster. Michael Skurlock setting an absolute blinder of a lap there, 28.649, getting him up to the front of the grid.
Yeah, and it looks like Jason Martin didn't have too good a qualifying run either. Finished 7th there. I'm just wondering whether the pressure of Foster leading the championship is starting to play on him a little bit, and he's feeling like he's pushing maybe that little bit too hard, and it's affecting his qualifying.
Yeah, it's not something we see too much from Jason Martin. He tends to be quite good under the pressure, and he tends to be very good in qualifying. Most of the mixed motorsport boys in general tend to be a lot faster. They're fast over the race, but they tend to have really good qualifying sessions. They work very hard on those hot laps, on those qualifying laps. And to see all 3 of them outside of the front row of the grid is a little bit rarer to see. So maybe they're trying something different with their practice sessions, going more for a race pace than an actual full sort of more focused on the qualifying and top speed. So they might be looking at playing something into the game here tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. Tristan Koch there setting a good lap up to 11th for him. Just clipping the grass as he came across it, just getting him that little bit of extra speed, which will help him out a lot would have helped him out a lot to get that qualifying lap in. Just having a look through the field. I think we've got Michael Shaw out there now. He's just sitting in the pits, sorry. And Schroeder as well, just sitting in the pits. So we'll see if anyone tries to go out for a last second dash. Otherwise, the grid is looking to be pretty much set. Yeah, they are running.
With almost 4.5 minutes to go, we've got a few people that haven't gone out to qualify, but yeah, like you said, they could be just buying their time to go out to do their two lap run. And really, I mean, you can't read too much into these qualifying sessions. It's always nice to be at the pointy end of the field, and you're always going to have a lot more work if you're further down the order. but it's still a long race, a lot of laps, and these guys, you never ever count out the guys from Mitch Motorsport.
No, you know those guys are going to be working hard tonight, and that's the thing. Qualifying at the front is good for the first couple of laps because it means there's less chance of getting hit by an accidental moment or having a bit of an accident happen to you. But you don't win a race at the start of the race; you win it at the end. So that's it. Qualifying on pole is all good, but you've got to turn that into actually get it into the race. So they're going to start gridding up now. So we'll just go through the starting order. So on row 1, we have Michael Skurlock with Edward Foster. Row 2, Josh Micklemore and Joshua Carroll-Walden. Row 3, Jason Hartigan and Hamish Gallagher. Row 4 is Jason Martin, Danny G. 5 is Allison and Urquio. 6th, Tristan Koch, Aidan Schultz. 7th is Norman Clark with Stephen Williams. 8th, we got Raymond Yeager and Michael Schroeder. 9th, Barry Neal and Matt Hunter. 10th, Riley Curtis, Michael Shaw. And out of the back is Nigel Patton.
So we're just waiting for them to start gridding up now. The clock is starting to tick.
And they'll all be getting their cars ready to go and ready to go out for this race, of course. Starting in the pit lane in the lovely angled position, which is one of my least favourite ways to start, actually, when you're forming up on these grids, because you've really got to keep an eye out the right-hand side of your car just to make sure you don't forget to drive off. It's an easy thing to do is to miss everybody else driving off and cause a bit of a gap to happen up the front.
Yeah, you don't clean someone up, and there they are. You can see them in the distance there, just forming up, getting ready to start.
That's it. So it's going to be a race where we'll see some interesting things, I'm sure, tonight. You're going to get some good racing because Texas, as I say, 1.5 mile track. It's a very high speed track. You're going to get a bit of a draft. Tends to be a slightly single line race, and it can really it can be quite interesting.
And here we see the cars coming out.
I do, and just seen as well over on Twitch, Skurlockin is streaming. So Michael Skurlock is going to be streaming his race. So after the race tonight, you could always watch his in-car view, which is always a fun thing to do sometimes. And plus, I'll embarrass him by saying this, so that's the main reason for doing it. Decent mind games for Skurlock.
Absolutely, and the silent assassin tonight, he's employed a different strategy. Let's just qualify at the front of the field, and I'm pretty sure he's going to want to try and show a clean pair of heels.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to try and lead this race from the start. I think he's pretty much gone into the mode of, I want to do good. I want to get some good results this time. He's a bit further down in the chase, of course, but he's still in contention for that sort of top 4, top 3 position. So he's going to try his best as they start line abreast. The green flag's going to drop, and the race is going to start here at Texas for the 8th round of the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup chase. And Skurlock drops a hammer quickly, gets a great start from Foster. Josh Micklemore has got a good start as well. He's trying to get underneath Foster. Foster doesn't allow that. He cuts down in front of him, holding Micklemore back. Just behind him, you can see Joshua Carroll-Walden just closing up on the back of Micklemore. Jason Hartigan there. It's a JP Simshed. There's a gaggle of your cars up the front there, and that's just cutting Micklemore off from his teammates.
Yeah, it's separated Micklemore, but he was pretty quick in practice. It'll be interesting to see. He wants to get out here. He's looking really racy, looking left, looking right, seeing if he can make a move around Foster. Foster's going to the outside here, and he's made a big move.
A big slide for Foster there through the corner. That's going to cost him on the exit, so he's going to lose a little bit of speed here. He might be able to hold up a bit of pace because he's now got his teammate of Joshua Carroll-Walden behind him. But he did have a big moment going through turns 1 and 2 there. Just the car losing its rear end there, and that cost him from coming up behind Skurlock. But he's going to try and push it. He wants to keep Micklemore beside him. He doesn't want Micklemore getting in front of him, and that's the big thing. Micklemore now is just pushing Skurlock along, just trying to help him. And Micklemore now just has a bit of a slide as they go through turn number 2. As I say, that there is a little bit of a bump through those corners that can catch you out a little bit.
Yeah, it looked like Foster carried a lot of speed going through there, and then all of a sudden he had that slide which slowed him up coming out of the corner. He's staying with Mickelmore here, but I'm just wondering whether that high line is just not where he wants to be.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to try and get on the low line if he can, but he's a bit hung out to dry at the moment. Trying to make that move, he might have just had to make that move because he didn't have much choice, really, because he had a big closing speed on Skurlock, and the draft can be quite strong here. As you can see behind him, Jason Martin getting a good launch past Lachlan Urquio, and he's managed to come up, and he's now chasing Jason Hartigan. There is some serious closing speeds. When you get the draft, it's quite powerful here, and it can really pick you up, get you some extra speed, 3 to 5 miles per hour faster than the car in front of you. Foster having another big moment through turn number 2 there. He's managed to hold the car somehow, but he's going to lose a lot of time from that one.
He's pushing really hard early on, Foster. I'm just wondering whether he's pushing maybe a little too hard and it's going to affect his tyres, but he knows what he's doing.
I've got a feeling it's probably a cold tyre situation. We should probably see these cars starting to tighten up a little bit in a few laps. Josh Mickelmore there getting an absolute launch on Skurlock again, as Skurlock keeps that low line. Everybody else is running a slight mid-line through the corner. Skurlock seems to be running a much lower line at the moment, and he seems to be quite happy down there. Everybody else is struggling a little bit as they sort of come up onto that mid-line sector, where they just lose a little bit of grip mid-corner. The tyres will be up to temperature now, so they should be a little bit easier to control, but this track can be quite treacherous sometimes.
Yeah,
as Skurlock just gets down on the apron there and just has a little bit of a moment. He's managed to catch the car, but that's given Mickelmore a good chance to run away.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mickelmore's really taken advantage of that and started to move.
Yeah, he's going to try and eke out a gap if he can. Obviously, once they get back in the draft of him, that gap's going to close very, very quickly. It looks like Skurlock's just struggling a little bit on that lower line for corner pace, but once he gets on the straight, he's getting a great launch off those corners. Foster's now got a bit more stability in the car as he keeps running that slightly higher line. Seems to be quite comfortable out there now. Obviously, depends how people have been running in practice as well as how tied up the lines are going to be, how tied up the groove is going to be. Because if everybody's been running that lower line all through practice, that high line will need a bit of time to rubber in. So that could be an issue there as well. They'll need to run out there a little bit just to get that bit of rubber on there and then be able to make it work for themselves.
Yeah, well, it's still early days now, and these guys have been practicing all week. They sort of have a bit of a game plan for tonight, where we see JCW get fairly close to Martin there.
Yeah, very close there, and they're really pushing hard. It's a, as we've said before, it's a big game of chess, getting towards up to sort of almost 200 miles per hour. These cars run up to about 180, 190 miles per hour. That's almost, that's getting up to the 300 mark in kilometers per hour, and very high speeds, really. And you've got to be thinking all the way around on these tracks. You're basically driving around, playing a game of chess as you're going at these high speeds. Sure, you're only turning one direction, you're only turning left, but it is so hard to do. There is so much thinking involved in racing these cars. Plus, you have to think about your pit strategy. You have to think about what's going to happen around you, and you always have to look around you as well, just to see if somebody else is going to have trouble, if there's going to be a crash, and then to avoid it. It's a very complex thing driving these cars.
Absolutely. We see Foster going around the outside there. He seems to be looking really racy. He was in second place. He is currently in second place, and there we have Martin right behind him.
Yeah, Martin's seen that high line working. I think he's noticed that high line seems to be working better for Foster at the moment, just for stability for the car. Skurlock is still using that very low line, and he's making it work for himself. We've seen this from Skurlock before. He can make those low lines work, and when they do, they can be quite useful for him. But he's definitely found a really good groove on that low line. Nobody else is really able to hold with him through those lines. Jason Martin's starting to give it a try. He's seeing what's down there, seeing what grip is down there. And you can see those two cars just starting to speed away on the exit. Through the corner itself, they tend to drop off a little bit, just because they lose a little bit more speed, taking the tighter apex. But then on the exit, they're getting a good drive off. There must be a nice bit of rubber down there just to help them get that grip and the friction to get off the line nice and easily.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see Ed Foster then dropping to that low line as well and just slotting in behind Martin.
Yeah, he doesn't want to lose sight of Martin. If he can finish, if Martin's going to finish ahead of him, Foster wants to be right behind him. Of course, that's going to be his game plan. He doesn't want to finish too far behind him, as we see Micklemore there just slotting in front of Foster, just cutting him off from Jason Martin there. Foster has managed to get back underneath Micklemore now, and they are racing very hard out there at the moment. And that's just the top group. There is racing all the way through the field, but can't really take our eyes off the front of the field at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And this is this is what happens when we're down to the last few rounds of the series. These guys are fighting for every single point that they can get, and they're certainly not going to give up.
No.
Look at this! How close was that?
So very close between Foster and Micklemore there. Just inches in it, maybe a slight little change of paint between them, but nothing there. And that's the skill of these drivers as well. They can run so close with each other. They know each other so well on these racetracks that they have confidence to race like that. But while Foster's fighting back there, this is giving Skurlock the chance to pull away. And right on the back of him is Jason Martin.
Yeah, 100%. And Jason's just having a little look on the inside there. That's not going to work. He goes back to the outside, and he is all over the back of Skurlock.
Yeah, I don't think Skurlock's going to give that inside lineup for anybody. And you can see now that the cars behind him have stopped fighting a little bit, and Jason Martin has started looking down on Skurlock and trying to force him offline, trying to force the racing in. It's allowing them to catch up as Martin does dive down the inside line. That's going to put Skurlock up high. This is going to be sort of the first time he's been up in that territory for a while. So the car will feel a bit different. He'll just have to get a moment to reacclimatise with that high line, and you just have to change your driving style slightly. Lifting off the throttle a tiny bit and just coming back on it. These subtle little movements that the drivers do just to get the car working around these extremely fast 1.5 mile ovals. As just behind Jason Hardigan just had a big tail slide coming out of turn number 2. Managed to hold it, but that's going to give Josh Micklemore a run back on him.
Yeah, so far it's been everybody's been pretty much holding station, but you can see there with Josh Micklemore just having a look at Hardigan there.
Yeah, he's definitely putting the pressure on Hardigan at the moment, and it doesn't look easy out there tonight. But it's a little bit slippery through the exits of the corners still, and a few drivers are finding that, and they're just having a few little moments between themselves. Just looking down the field quickly, Aiden Schultz has had a bit of a bite into the wall. He's got quite a bit of damage on the right front of his car. So big moment for him, as well as Tristan Koch, a little bit of damage to his car as well as he's dropped back down to 19th position. So a few drivers have sort of caught the wall at the moment, but nothing major enough to sort of cause the caution to come out, cause the safety car, pace car, to come out onto the track tonight, which is a good thing.
Yeah, 20 laps into the race, everybody's sort of behaving themselves. Apart from the front runners, they are absolutely not giving up at all.
No, they are really pushing hard up there, and they're sort of starting to fall back a little bit. There's a little bit of a drop off between.
Just had something happen here with Jason. Sorry, Carl. We've just had something happen here with Jason Hardigan. I don't know whether he may have had an internet issue.
Yeah, it looks like Hardigan's had a connection loss because he just jumped straight off the track there, unfortunately. Oh, as Martin goes into the wall, coming into the start-finish sector, Martin just tapped the wall with the right front of his car, and that's a big moment for Martin. Doesn't look like there's too much damage there, but it's allowed Foster to get past. Now Martin's running right on the tail of Foster, so these guys are starting to battle hard. A real shame for Jason Hardigan, though.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's probably because he's moved house this week and he's got new internet connection, so maybe that wasn't working for him, and that's just he's had a moment there. But yeah, tough luck for Jason Hardigan. But yeah, look at this battle: Foster at the front, Martin behind him. Martin's had a touch of the wall, so I'm wondering if that's going to affect him at all. Although you wouldn't know it at this stage, it doesn't look like it has.
No, it's not going to affect him too much as he's in the draft, as he's got some cars in front of him. Just looking back as well, it looks like JCW, Joshua Carroll-Walden's had a bit of a nibble into the wall as well on his right front. And the little taps you do on the right front of these cars, and when you tap the wall with these cars, it sometimes damages the aero a little bit, sometimes damages the geometry of the wheels a little bit, and then can make it a bit harder through the rest of the race. When you're in a draft like this, it doesn't affect you too much because you're getting a hole punched through the air for you.
And we're watching Danny G. He's having a look at Lachlan Urquio.
And making that move, really nice move there from Danny G. Just millimetre perfect, just coming up on Urquio though. And he just really moved that car into the perfect spot. That's given Hamish Gallagher a bit of a run as well, and he's coming up behind those guys with Bradley Allison there as well. So those guys in the lower section of the chase, the sort of bottom half of the chase, so to say, they're still racing hard, still wanting to get positions up, still wanting to gain positions, and wanting to get places made.
And then we see Hamish Gallagher on the inside of Lachlan Urquio. Easy move. And I think Bradley Allison's going to try to buy into this as well.
Yeah, Allison's got a good move down there on Lockie, and he's going to make that move stick quite easily. Lockie's just going to recompose himself now and then get back onto that line, just work the car a little bit. He was pushing hard earlier on with those front runners, and it might just be scrubbed a little bit off the front tyres. We saw Gallagher and Allison both just being a little bit, just holding back a little bit, not pushing too hard in the race earlier on. But they're starting to come back towards these guys at the front, so they are slowly catching on them. Josh Micklemore and Joshua Carroll-Walden are both having a good fight at the moment, but that's going to allow the guys like Danny G, Hamish Gallagher, Bradley Allison and Lachlan Urquio to catch up to them and start battling for positions.
Yeah, 100%, and you can see the guys in front there. Oh. And yeah, Skurlock has gone high.
Yeah, Skurlock just going very high there. Can't see a reason for it really. It's just other than maybe he's just got a little bit less front grip than he expected coming in there. But he's managed to keep the car pretty much stable, just allowing Foster to get through. I'm wondering if he's doing that because he just wants to save a little bit of fuel, just doesn't want to be leading the charge, so to say, and wants to save a little bit of fuel as we go throughout this run. Because it didn't look like a mistake watching him, just looked like a move just to let Foster get through without losing too much speed. He then slotted in just behind Foster, so he's now got a car punching a hole through the air for him, and that's going to help his fuel mileage.
Yeah, 100%. He saw Foster coming. He said, well, you're faster than me. I've led for 27 laps. How about you have a bit of a go?
Yeah, giving him that position to try and sort of make it so, well, he's got a little bit better run if this race does run green for the rest of the laps. And with everybody's driving tonight, it could well be that, because we're seeing some great driving standards out there tonight, which is always what we like to see. Aiden Schultz coming into pit lane now. I think he's had another moment out there because he's got a bit more damage to that car. Yeah, he's had a big moment going through turn number 2 and had a big slide up into the wall, big bite out of the barrier. Kept it relatively smart as he's got back to the pit lane, but he's going to need to get some repairs done for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You can see Jason Martin sort of falling back a little bit. He's come back up again now, so I'm not sure whether he's just buying his time. But what this has done is this has let Foster control the race, and you know that Foster can be very, very good on his tyres when he's out the front. He can control the race from the lead and start conserving his tyres from there while everyone else behind him starts to use up their rubber.
Yeah, he's putting a good job on there as they're coming up to Michael Shaw at the moment, who's struggling out there for pace. He's struggling with a car that's not responsive. He's got a bit of damage on the front of that, and he drops down to the low line to let the leaders pass. I think he's going to come into the pit lane this time. Yeah, it looks like he was really struggling out there with the front end of that car, not having a responsive vehicle at all. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him pitting now, try and get some damage fixed, because it does not look like an easy car to drive.
No, not at all. And we're seeing Stephen Williams and Raymond Yeager here fighting for position. Yeah, Stephen Williams
coming off a really strong truck performance earlier this Monday in the ANZCAR Activity Hub Barley Truck Series. on Monday night, but then having a bit of an issue and then get caught out, unfortunately, later in that race. But we know Stephen Williams, he sometimes races a little bit smarter, just doesn't push too hard early on, and then gets good later on in the race. And we've seen that a number of times from Stephen Williams, where he just doesn't push too hard, and then later on he starts climbing his way up as he's looking past Raymond Yeager there.
Yeah, 100%. And it just looks like Jason Martin, once again, looks like he's just dropping back a little bit. Every time I say that, I say it looks like he's dropping back a little bit. Then he just surges forward and closes that gap between himself and Skurlock.
Yeah, he needs to keep close to Skurlock at the moment because, as I say, that little bit of front damage could start affecting a little bit of the air rate. So he might just be a little bit slower than those guys once it gets into a clean air scenario. And that could be a little bit troublesome for him. So he wants to keep in the draft, much like Joshua Carroll-Walden as well. He has that little bit of a crinkle at the front of his car. He wants to keep close to Micklemore. Doesn't want to drop back too far, because if you drop back a little bit further, lose that draft, all of a sudden you start losing 10, 15 kilometers per hour around this track, and you drop off quite quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And let's go down. There we go. Danny G make a move on JCW here. And Danny G is starting to surge up the field. He's made up 3 places now. He's into 5th place, and he's looking very, very racing.
He is, but JCW there is really trying his best to defend that. He's working hard to get past JCW and get a little bit further up there, but he's not going to have much luck because now we've got Hamish Gallagher running that lower line, pushing JCW out there, and you can see the back end of that car is not happy. It's stepping out a little bit, and he's struggling a little bit out there on the higher line now, and he's going to lose that position. So falling back a bit, and now Bradley Allison is catching up to him very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like JCW is struggling a little bit out there. Maybe he's pushed a little too hard early out, and his tyres are suffering now. I don't know. Again,
with keep talking about damage here tonight, but yeah, as I say, he has got that little crinkle on the right front of his car, which, you know, it could be causing a little bit more wear on that right front, which then causes you trouble as you go along there as well. Got a good battle going on between Raymond Yeager and Stephen Williams too. Those guys are really putting on a good show. Raymond Yeager, some new paints for tonight by the looks of it.
Yep, with the Ever One Motorsport team.
Yeah, nice looking paint job. Nice to see Raymond Yeager in a team. It's good to see him getting picked up because he's been a good peddler for many races now, Raymond, and good to see him getting a good fight with Stephen Williams there. And they're just trying to catch up to sort of Barry Neal, who's quietly just sitting between Urquio and Yeager in that sort of the separate packs between P9 and P11, and sitting there in P10. And again, Barry Neal's just doing a really good job of just quietly working his way up the field. Again, one of those drivers that's it's rookie year for this season, so putting on another good job. And we've seen himself do some good drives this year. So he's doing a good job up there, slowly working his way up the field. But he really needs to get up closer to the guys ahead of him, start getting back into the draft and start catching up to them a little bit quicker. Yeah,
100%. I mean, he's been, I was about to say, he's been really consistent. He had a big tank slapper coming out of that corner.
The commentator's curse strikes once again. Always the thing. Luckily, he managed to hold that one quite well. So, good job for him there, and just keeping the car straight. The leaders are coming back up on Michael Shaw, I believe. So, he's just going to stick up on the high line. He's managed to get the car back out there. Still struggling a bit with that car, though.
Yeah, great presence of mind from Michael Shaw there to keep his car up nice and high, let the leaders go through. And now we're seeing Jason Martin falling down a little bit. He'll be wanting to get into the pits and see if he can repair that damage and get back out as quick as possible.
Yeah, he's going to be wanting a caution to come relatively soon. Obviously, he's going to be able to get a little bit of the car fixed in the caution period, but you're still going to lose a lot of time. So you've got to be careful with that because you can sometimes drop right to the back of the field. So sometimes it's not even worth repairing it. You'll get a little bit of repair done as they change the tyres and fill it up full of fuel. But he might just be sort of just sort of thinking, is it that bad at the moment? Do I need to get this little bit done? But yeah, it's definitely struggling a little bit out there, and he's starting to lose a little bit of pace. As JCW actually having a big moment as they came across the last lap. Looked like Michael Shaw. He just came up a little bit on Michael Shaw. He couldn't get the car turned in quickly enough. And he's had a big sideswipe with Michael Shaw there. So big moment for JCW there. He's managed to keep the car going and keep it straight. But again, that's not going to help to the car's overall performance.
No, absolutely not. And you can see now Bradley Allison's starting to close in on the back of JCW.
He is, and just in the far background, you'll be able to see that blue and orange car as well of Barry Neal. He's doing a great job to keep up the good pace, setting some good lap times as well out there on his own. He's setting 30.4s at the moment, which is up there with people like Danny G and Jason Martin. So he's setting some of the top paces at the moment. He's one of the faster cars out there, doing a great job there out on his own. But of course, that's going to be using a bit more fuel than those cars around him. Just back a little bit, Josh Mickelmore now has got his teammate Danny G right behind him and looking to actually try and make a bit of a pass here.
Yeah, Danny G has been really strong. His last laps were in the low 30s, so 30.28 was his last lap. So he's coming along really strong. We just got a message from Jason Martin. Hey guys, PC issues struck me down tonight. Big move yesterday and haven't had time to double check everything, which is what I thought might have been the case.
Yeah, same there for Jason Harsgen. Real shame there, not Jason Martin. But yeah, real big shame there for Hardigan. That's going to be a annoying one for him, and it's always the trouble when you move and you get things done with computers, is you just never get them done in time, and you always struggle, and you think you're getting back into the race or something, and then something fails. It's much like that last minute fix on a car before a race. You know, you might think you've got it done, and then all of a sudden on lap 2 or 3, the pipe will blow off, and then all of a sudden you've got nothing. And
more often than not, it's you're done in by a $2 part.
That's it, exactly. It's always the cheapest part that fails, and it's always the most stupid bit as well. That's often the case.
Absolutely. Look at Danny G here, all over the back of Mickelmore. His last lap wasn't much in it. Mickelmore did a 30.3, Danny G a 30.2, so he's definitely got some pace. Foster's the only other one at the moment in the 30.2s with a 30.28, and Riley Curtis right down in 14th did a 30.24 on the last lap, and here Danny G had to think about it, but there wasn't anywhere to go. But yeah, I'm wondering whether Josh might step aside for Danny and see if they can work together and move towards the front of the field.
It might be worth it, just getting Danny G in front of you, getting a little bit of a draft from him, and he'll drag you along a little bit up to your teammate, and then all three of you can start working together. So they might be thinking about that soon as a bit of an option. As you can see, Danny G is over Mickelmore all like a rash at the moment. He's left, he's right, he doesn't know where he wants to be, but he wants to be past his teammate.
Absolutely, and this is playing into the hands of Hamish Gallagher as well. He's starting to make ground on both of them.
He is, as we see Danny G going down the inside now into turn number 3. He's going to hold that position, and Mickelmore is going to drop right behind him, and that's a perfect pass there for Danny G. Not much time lost for Josh Mickelmore. Time gained for Danny G, and those guys are going to try and run off now and try and start flying down the circuit to get away from those cars behind them.
And that's going to be the smart move, to work together. I mean, at the end of the day, they are a team. Work together and try to start making their way forward. If they can hook up with Jason Martin, they might be able to drag him along as well.
Yeah, and it could be a very fortuitous event for them if we do remain green, is if those three pit at the same time, they'll be able to come out together and work together in relatively fresh air with each other, and sort of a little bit of bump drafting, a little bit of drafting with each other, get some good times up, get some good pace up, and try and get some good positions up at the end of the day for themselves.
100%. They have the advantage at the moment because they're three drivers that are reasonably equal in pace. On any given night, any one of them can be leading. Ed Foster's kind of the pioneer at the moment with the JP Simshed crew, not taking anything away from JCW or the other guys. They just at the moment don't have the pace to keep up with him.
They don't. And we're getting to that time where we're going to see some green flag pit stops, I reckon. So in the very near future, I can see a few people coming into pit lane. So expect to see the leaders thinking about that relatively soon as we see, I think, Matt Hunter there going into the pit lane. So first sort of car to blink at the moment, Matt Hunter there, the 48 there going into pit lane. So he's pitting a little bit early, getting some fuel in, getting that early pit stop done. We'll try and get out there. Joshua Coward-Walden also is coming to pit lane. So he's going to come in, get some fresh boots on the car, get some fuel in there, and maybe get a little bit of a repair done too.
Yeah, and I think Foster had a bit of a scrappy lap that last lap. He did a 30.6 with Micklemore a 30.3. And
we've got the Mitch Motorsport team pitting in right now. Jason Martin having a big lock-up as he comes into the pit lane. But all of those, we've got Martin and Micklemore both pitting in at the same time. So those two have called the pit stop time. They're coming in now for that pit stop. So they're going to come out together as well. So this is the big time. This is where everybody's going to be coming in and out.
You're going to sit with Martin here. He may have gone a bit too fast into the pits. I don't think so. But it'll be interesting to tell. No, he hasn't. He's off and running.
Yeah, he's off and away he goes. Good pit stop there for Martin. You can see his teammate was a little bit further back on the road as well, and he's going to come out a little bit later. So everybody's starting to pit in. Foster's in the pit lane now as well. So they're all coming into their pit stop. Skurlock's pitted too. Everybody's coming in now. That call has been made. This is giving Danny G the lead of the race temporarily. So he's going to be out there for a little bit. I imagine he's got a little bit of fuel on board too, so he's going to try and stay out there a little bit longer. Danny G's pitted in. Hamish Gallagher now taking the lead with Bradley Allison. Barry Neal as well staying out there. Good job for Barry Neal. Very good job on his fuel because he's been running alone most of this race. He's done a fantastic job.
Sorry, Carl. So have a look at this. The undercuts work for Martin. He's been able to pass Foster and Skurlock in the pits, and he's got a very handy lead on them.
He has. It's not worked out quite as he's got a big lead actually over them. He's really gotten a good jump over those guys. Really good pit stop for Martin. That's helped him out a lot. But we might see this playing into Foster and Skurlock's hands a little bit later on in the race.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering if that could have been something to do with fueling. Maybe Martin underfueled.
Yeah, looking at the pit stops, they're relatively similar. I think it's just those fresh tyres have really helped him out a bit, just giving him that little bit of a kick. He was closing up on the guys beforehand, and he did get a good run on them. But now their tyres are starting to heat up. Foster is closing on Martin. So he's starting to close up this gap quite quickly now. You can see it visually. He's starting to really come along quite quickly.
Absolutely. And actually, when you look at the pit stops, Martin's stop was slightly faster than Foster's.
Yeah, Martin had a good stop.
Sorry, it was slightly longer.
Yeah, Foster had a really good stop. But this is the little bit of the sort of fresh tyres on the track, I think, situation. But you have to wonder as well with Jason Martin there, how much of that is going to be affected with, again, just not much damage on the front of that car, but he does have a wrinkle there, and sometimes that can cause the car just to drop off a little bit of pace when you're running out there in the clean air. So he might just be struggling with that. Last lap times around. I'll wait for those to update slightly.
Well, you can see last lap time was at 29.25 by Martin and 28.99 by Foster.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it. You're sort of seeing Foster just a little bit quicker at the moment in that clean air, and Martin just struggling a little bit in the clean air. So I think that could be a little bit down to that front end damage, that little bit of aero damage, and it costs you, it can cost you about 1 kilometre per hour, which is nothing when you're sort of talking about it in your average time, but it's a huge amount when you're actually on the track. And just switching between them, I was just having a look at their speed. I work in miles per hour. I'm sorry, I'm one of those people. But yeah, I'm just watching the speeds, and Foster has got so much more speed in a straight line than Martin. He's really absolutely flying up there. So the straight line speed difference is, between 2 to 3 miles per hour between Foster and Martin at the moment.
Yeah, look at this. He's just absolutely eating him up.
And he's going to just fly past Jason Martin here, and that's not what Martin wants to see, because he's on those tyres that are 1 lap older, of course, and it's not going to make that much difference 1 lap, but those are fresher tyres on Foster and Skurlock, which means he's not going to get a little bit of a helping hand later in this race. He's not going to be able to make it sort of the tyres and the fuel last longer. He knows when they're going to stop as well, so not ideal for Jason Martin. That little scrape of the wall earlier on is really costing him now.
Yeah, 100%, and you can see there in the difference in the lap times there. Last lap time for Foster 29.3, 29.7 for Martin, and a 29 flat for Skurlock.
Yeah, it's paid off quite well. I'm just looking as well a little bit back towards Josh Mickelmore and Danny G, because Mickelmore's pulled out about a 5-second lead over Danny G now. So those guys coming in that lap earlier, it did make a... I'm wondering if they maybe had traffic or just some sort of traffic issue as they were pitting in, those guys, because they lost an awful lot of time just in a single lap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason Martin and Josh Mickelmore both gained a lot of time, I should say, but it just seems like they gained more than I would expect in a single lap run, because fresh tyres are not going to be 5 seconds a lap faster. That's the thing. So not sure what happened with all the leaders there. I'm just wondering if maybe they had some traffic as they were pitting in and just had to slow down a little bit more than those guys, than Jason Martin and Josh Mickelmore. Because we did see they were absolutely on the limit when they hit that pit entry line.
Yeah, 100%. And you can see here Lockie Urquio just reeling in JCW with that damage that JCW's got on his car. That's not helping him either.
No, that's going to be hurting him all night long. And as I say, it's annoying when you get that aero damage on these cars, because the car can feel absolutely fine still, and you can feel there's no issue at all. But you're just so slow down the straights. It's almost like you're dragging a concrete block behind the car, and it just gets so frustrating. As Barry Neal makes a move as well, he's going to try and get down underneath JCW, and he does manage it. JCW gets a little bit unsettled there as the car comes underneath him. A little bit of aero change there, and that just unsettled the front end of JCW's car. He held it well, but Barry Neal's going to take that position. Bradley Allison's next in line, and he's coming up quickly on JCW.
Yeah, and poor JCW, he's just going to be the whipping boy tonight. All of these cars around him, they're just going to eat him up in a straight line and then just sail on past.
Yeah, he's going to be wanting a caution to come relatively soon to help him out. I'm just jumping back to the front now. Now Foster's in front of Jason Martin. They're setting relatively similar lap times. Last time round was a 29.54, 29.55 and 29.54 for Michael Skurlock. Almost identical lap times for the three of them. Now Martin has somebody in front of him. He's got that speed back because he's back in the draft of the car in front of him. And his bit of front aero damage isn't hurting him anymore. So you sort of see the difference it makes when you're running in the clear air, because you saw how quickly Skurlock and Foster were catching them up, and you could see Skurlock had a bit of a gap between himself and Foster for a while as well, but now that he's caught him right up to Foster and Jason Martin as they've started to work with each other for that sort of bit of aero gain.
I'm just wondering if that might have been Martin's plan all along. He knew he was going to be in trouble if he was on his own, and he just let these guys catch up to him and get out in front of him and then just start towing him along.
Yeah, he's just getting that bit of help with that tow, and as I was saying earlier, it might pay off for him in the next round of pit stops to try and pit with his teammates if he can get back in a sort of close position with them, because then he can at least sort of eat a bit of their aero, a bit of their draft, and sort of help reduce the effect of that damage on the front end of his car.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting race so far. A lot of racing still to come, so this is going to be, I think this is definitely going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, as we just round to lap 72 in a couple of moments. So lap 72 of 166. There we go. So yeah, still a long way to go in this race. Still quite a bit to go. Looks like Stephen Williams has had to pull out. Bit of an issue for him. Just wondering if he's had a bit of an accident. Shame there to see Stephen Williams dropping out. Just running back to see if I can find anything on that one.
Yeah, that was a shame. He wasn't doing too badly at all. And here we go, Bradley Allison having a look at Lockie.
Yeah, Allison just catching right up to him. And just getting a nice move down on the inside there for Bradley Allison. He's going to make that move hold, and he gets past. Now he can start trying to catch up to Barry Neal in front of him.
Yep, and we're watching Raymond Yeager and Riley Curtis here, and Riley lap after lap has for the last few laps has been faster than Raymond, so he's going to be looking to make a move around the outside, or sorry, a move on Yeager soon.
Yeah, he's going to be after that, trying to get past a fast-charging Yeager, I must say. But yeah, he's going to want to try and get that done. Riley Curtis has been having some good races recently. He ended up with a pole position a couple of weeks back in the trucks at Watkins Glen, and a couple of wins in the truck series as well. He's been having a fantastic season over there, and he's just want to try and transfer that over to the Cup Series with that A1 Sim Sport team.
Yeah, he's been coming on really strong in the latter part of the year. Riley has, and I think he's one of those drivers to look out for next year. I think he's going to be fairly strong. Yeah,
he's been a hard charger in the ANZCAR series for a few years. But he just dropped off a little bit as the years gone on, and he just seems to be just finding that pace back again, coming back at everybody and just starting to work his way back up the field now, which is great to see. It's always nice to see people getting back to the front of the field and starting to battle for those wins.
What just happened? Sorry, Colin. What just happened to Raymond Yeager there? He was all over the back of Norman Clark, and then all of a sudden he fell right back.
He had a big moment coming through turn number 2, the dreaded bump as you go into turn 1, catching him again. I think he's just gone through turn number 2, and all of a sudden the back end of the car's just stepped out on him. He's managed to catch the slide and then get back into it, but it did lose him a lot of time on Norman Clark. So yeah, big moment coming through turns 1 and 2. Again, he just he's managed to catch it, not lose too much time with it, but it does affect you in the race, and it just a lot of drivers are finding out here tonight where it's not super slippery out there, but it's just slippery enough that if you take your eye off the ball for even a nanosecond, you're just going to lose that back end of the car, and all of a sudden you're heading towards the wall. Luckily though, it's not too bad to recover, it seems to. Everybody's managing to keep the car pointing straight again after they make those little slides, but it's definitely not easy out there.
Yeah, you can definitely see it. If we go to, we might just see if we can go to the nose cam there on Michael Skurlock's car and just see if we can get a glimpse of Jason Martin, the back end of Jason Martin's car, just stepping out slightly as he comes through the corner there.
And then coming back onto it once he gets to the straight line. You can just see the back of the car almost just bouncing back into position. It's sort of just stepping out a little bit through the corner, through the apex of the corner, and all the cars are doing this right now. It's not just Martin. There are a lot of drivers that are having the same thing. I was watching Foster a couple of minutes ago, and he was having a similar thing happen to him. Just mid-apex, the car was just starting to loosen up in the rear end, just starting to let go a little bit, and then the grip switches
Oh,
back
look at
on.
this! That looked like a big slide.
That was a big slide for Foster, yes, as we're talking about slides. But this has been happening to all the drivers out there tonight. The rear end is just absolutely losing the grip through the midsection of the corner, and then once you get out of the corner, it just snaps back to life. It's almost like there's ice on those corners. You go through them, you're just holding on for dear life, and then as soon as you get off the corner, the ice is gone, you're back to normal road conditions, and you're fine. But Foster definitely losing a bit of time here now, and this has given Martin a chance to catch back up to him. But Martin knows he can't really overtake Foster because Foster will just get back out in front of him straight away because he's that little bit slower down the front straight. So he's got to just try and apply pressure to Foster and try and push him into making a mistake now.
Yeah, and it seemed to be the same corner that Foster, I think it's this one or the next one, no, the next one where Foster goes a little bit wide, and then you've got Martin behind him that's able to close up quite considerably.
Yeah, Martin that time round just having a little bit of a snap on the car, and that's lost him a little bit of time. Riley Curtis there being very courteous towards the drivers. They're getting out of the racing line completely for those guys. I think he's actually coming into pit lane, so he's going to be coming in to make a pit stop. But Martin has started closing up on Foster now as they go across the start-finish line. You can see how close they are from that bumper cam, right on it, you know. And as you jump out of the cars as well, it's just such a close quarters fight when you're racing these cars. There's absolutely nothing between them. You're talking millionths of a second, and yeah, it's such a tricky thing to do. But Riley Curtis coming in for a pit stop now. He pitted a fair bit earlier, so he's going to try and come out on some fresh tyres, get a little bit of the undercut working for him, and then try and make it to the rest of the race on fuel now.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we saw Foster going, well, we thought we saw Foster going wide through that corner, but I think it's just his driving style. I think it's his way of trying to conserve the tyres, because now that he's got Martin right behind him, he's closed that lineup and he's able to sort of get that drive and just keep Martin behind him.
Yeah, he's going to try his best. And as I say, Martin doesn't really want to pass Foster, because if he does, he's not going to really hold out there much longer. He's not going to be able to pull away. It's not like he can actually run away from him, because we've seen that Foster does have that straight line speed advantage. I think it's just Foster's way of coping more so than sort of conserving tyres, because he's getting a lot of slip in that rear, and that's not going to do the rear tyres much good. But obviously, I did say at the start of the session, if you'd missed that, this circuit isn't really a tyre eater, so the tyre wear won't be a huge problem here, but they might be struggling a little bit with temperatures. Temperature could be a thing, not so much wear, but the tyres could be heating up, especially those rear tyres, because there's a lot of force that goes through them on one of these Cup cars. Obviously, a lot of horsepower going through those rear tyres, and then you're going through these corners at incredible speeds, so there is an awful lot of pressure going onto those tyres, and that can cause some heat issues sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And all the while we're watching Michael Skurlock here, I just think he's just sitting back and waiting.
Yeah, Skurlock's just not pushing too hard. He knows that Martin doesn't have the pace at the moment. He knows that Foster's struggling, and he's just going to sit back here, just let the car go easily through the corners, not rush too much, not work too hard. He's just going to try his best to keep it in a nice, smooth, easy area.
Yeah, and you can see these guys are just, it almost looks like they're, you'd almost think that they were working together, these three, just waiting to see who the first driver that blinks.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit of a game of chicken, isn't it, really? It's not easy to do, but they are working their hardest to do it. Just jumping back to Riley Curtis, who has come in for that pit stop. He is absolutely flying out there at the moment, almost a second a lap faster than everybody else. So you can see the difference that fresh tyres are making. He's just carving his way through the field at the moment and making use of that undercut. Michael Shaw as well pitting for another time this race. I think that'll be his fourth pit stop now. He's got a bit of damage on that car. But Riley Curtis is the one to look for, because you might see him getting up some good positions once this all starts to shake out. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're on lap 90 of 166 now. Martin came in on lap 54, Skurlock and Foster on 55. So you would think if they're going to do the same thing, they're probably going to be looking at coming in around about 100, 109, 110, maybe 100.
They are going to want to push it to as far as they can, because they need to go to around about lap 111 to make it on fuel. That's going to be the big thing from my little bit of working out. If they did pit with very low fuel on board, because it seems like everybody had to come in at the same time. And usually if it's tyre wear, you'll see somebody risking it a little bit, staying out a few laps longer. So what I was hearing from the drivers earlier was it was around about a 55, 56 lap sort of fuel track. So if they pit on a lap 110, they're going to struggle with the fuel load for about a lap. So they're going to be about a lap down on fuel. So ideally, they're going to want to pit on about a lap 111 or 112 to have the best fuel for the end of the race.
And here we see Foster coming up on some lap traffic now. He's sort of cleared the field a bit now. He's put a 0.6 of a second gap between himself and Martin. But he is going to be held up by these lap traffic.
Yeah, he's got Tristan Koch in front of him. He's going to let him go through, and Raymond Jaeger, I think, up there as well. Raymond Jaeger just there as well. So Raymond Jaeger's battling hard and trying to work his way, keep himself on the lead lap as well. But you can see Foster has just got so much more speed. He's not gonna put the risk of it too much. But you do have to battle to stay on the lead lap sometimes in cup racing, in NASCAR and oval racing, because there's no blue flags, as we like to remind people. You know, it's up to the driver if they want to give up their lap. Of course, if you're just the first car a lap down and there is a caution, you do get the lucky dog, so you get that lap back. So there is some strategy to play in that respect.
So at the moment, now that Raymond Jaeger has been passed, he is the first car that is a lap down. So he can stand the benefit from that lucky dog if a caution comes out.
Yeah, if a caution came out now, it would be quite helpful for Raymond Jaeger and get him back onto the tail of Norman Clark, get back into the fight, things like that. Norman Clark is the next car down the line to be passed. It will be a teammate free-for-all for Foster, as he's going to be passing Norman Clark, Joshua Carroll-Walton and Lachlan Urquio in 9th, 10th and 11th. But those guys are pretty spread out at the moment. They're not really nose to tail, so he's got a bit of time before he catches them as well, because they're still setting some relatively good lap times. They're pretty much setting similar pace to the leaders as it stands, so I doubt we'll be seeing that come into effect for a bit of time.
Absolutely, and here's an interesting turn of effect. Michael Skurlock has fallen back a fair bit here. I don't know whether he's maybe trying to save a little bit of fuel, or maybe he had a couple of scrappy laps getting through traffic.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump on board and have a little bit of a watch and a listen to Skurlock, because he is lifting quite a bit through the corners, and he's coasting a little bit as he goes through there, and you can see he's not really catching up to Tristan Koch in front of him. So I think Skurlock's gone into fuel-saving mode right now, just so he can get a little bit longer in this run, a little bit longer in the stint. Because as I said, they're going to be pretty touch and go for fuel if they stop anywhere from now until about lap 110, 112. So they're going to want to try and save as much fuel as possible. Meanwhile, out front you've got Foster, who's pretty much just hard charging it. And if he has to come in that bit earlier, it could be really, really tricky for him for the rest of the race, because he'll have to save fuel later on in the stint. Skurlock is absolutely lifting and coasting through the corners, and you can just see that by how much time he's lost to Jason Martin and the fact he's not flying past Tristan Koch at the moment. So Skurlock's playing a bit of the strategy game right now.
Yeah, 100%, and this could make a massive difference come the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, this could play into Skurlock's hand later on, because you mightn't see everybody having to make a splash and dash and Skurlock being the one person that doesn't, and that could really pay off for him if he manages to make that work.
And here we see the teammates again, Danny G and Josh Micklemore, nose to tail again, and it looks like once again Danny G slightly faster than Micklemore.
Yeah, he's got that speed on Micklemore just on the exit of the corners. He's just managing to get a little bit better run out of the corners than Micklemore, who's got a little bit more pace going into the corner. And that could be a bit of driving style there coming into play, because sometimes some drivers prefer a slow entry and a quick exit. Some drivers prefer to run it a little bit faster through the whole corner. So sometimes driving style can make it a little bit more deceptive of who's the fastest out of the two. But Micklemore is sort of, he's managing to hold Danny G off at the moment. They're not sort of as close as they were, but they are starting to catch up on Michael Skurlock, which is the main thing. So we'll see how that goes as well.
Now, here's an interesting one for you, Carl. If lap 111, 112 is the critical lap, Jason Martin and I think it was Michael Skurlock as well, they both came in on lap 54.
Well, Skurlock pitted with Foster, so those guys pitted a lap later. I think they were 55, lap 55 for their pit stops.
Yep, sorry. Yep, my bad.
Lap 55, lap 56, I've got it written down. Martin and Micklemore, they both pitted one lap earlier. Danny G also stayed out a bit longer. He stayed out an extra lap over his... he stayed out an extra 2 laps over his teammates as well, so he's got a bit more fuel to play with too. There's not much between them in pit stops, in their pit stop sort of timing, so to say. The guy that stayed out the longest was Bradley Allison, I think. He stayed out there until lap 60. So he could be in good contention right now because he's got a fair few laps extra fuel in the tank. So he could be looking good for this one if he can make that car keep running well and get a good position out of it and just keep running at his pace, really.
Well, yeah, his lap times at the moment aren't that bad at all. Last lap was a 30.4. Ed Foster did a 30.5. Martin did a 30.46. So he's lapping pretty consistently, and he does have fuel at hand.
Here's an interesting one because we saw this last time round. Matt Hunter was the first of those guys to really start the pitting in process. We saw Matt Hunter come in first, and he's just pitted again. So Matt Hunter obviously just being a little bit low on fuel, obviously running a bit of a different strategy than everyone else. He's have to pit now, which means he's going to have to stop one more time in this race to make it to the end on fuel, or he's going to have a good caution period. But then everybody's going to pit for a caution anyway to get fresh tyres. So Matt Hunter's definitely going to have to stop one more time from this. There's a big moment behind Skurlock. Oh, Josh Micklemore, actually. It was Josh Micklemore. Caught somebody having a big moment back there, and it was Josh Micklemore. He's had a big moment into the wall behind Danny G. So big impact for them going up into the wall for Josh Micklemore, and that's not going to help his race out.
Yeah, that's really going to hurt him. Yeah, looked like he just managed to avoid the wall, but that slowed him right down and allowed Danny G to get down on the inside.
Yeah, it's sort of from my angle, it looked like he had a bit of a thump in there because there was quite a lot of lateral movement. But it was the rear end of the car, so luckily for him, that's not going to do too much to the front end. There is a little bit of a crinkle on that front of the car now, but he definitely is going to be struggling out there, and that could be just from tyre wear, and he's dropped right off the pace of Danny G. He was a good 3-4 tenths off Danny G that time round, so he's definitely struggling a bit out there now. Not often we see a mistake from Josh Micklemore.
Yeah, 100%. And Ed Foster has shown Jason Martin a clean pair of heels. He's now 1 point a second up the road there. But yeah, now it's going to come down to how much fuel they have in hand. I'm sure Foster knows about that and has allowed for that. We're going to we'll know for sure. I guess in a few laps when they come in for their pit stop.
Yeah, that's it. He stopped, by my maths, he stopped on lap 56, so he should be perfectly in that sort of, that moment to come in on lap 111, 112, and have enough fuel to the very end of the race. Of course, sometimes that can be a little bit tricky because we don't know what they were running earlier on in the race, of course. They might have had a little bit of fuel left in the car when they first pitted. But we're going to see from Jason Martin now, if he can stay out another couple of laps here, then he's in good. If he has to come in this lap, he's going to be touch and go to the finish.
And we've got Hamish Gallagher. Hamish Gallagher's in the pits.
Yeah, Hamish Gallagher quite early, and that's strange for Gallagher because he tends to be pretty good on his fuel and tyres. So he might just be trying for the undercut here, just trying to get those tyres to last a little bit longer and be quite confident that he's going to make it on fuel to the end of the race now. So he might have a little bit of an idea of he's got some fuel in the tank left. He's going, all right, I've got a chance to make an undercut here because the leaders will stay out for as long as they can now. Of course, just in case a caution comes out. So he might be just rolling the dice here, and it might just pay off for him a little bit later on in this race.
Well, we have seen it in the past where Hamish Gallagher has played those, I guess, those joker cards, and they've come up for him.
Yeah, we've seen he's been as Edward Foster said a while back in a commentary session. Gallagher is one of the smartest drivers out there, and he just tends to have this good idea on the pit strategies and just has a good idea of what to do, and it plays quite well for him. Jumping back a little bit to Bradley Allison and Barry Neal as well, those guys are still running well up there in 6th and 7th. JCW and Norman Clark have just pitted in as well, so those guys are coming into the pit lane, but and Barry Neal is coming in right now for this pit stop. So that's one of those top, sort of the high-up drivers. Another one coming in now, Barry Neal coming in. Be interested to see how far Brad Allison can take this one now, because he did stop a lot later as well. So it'll be interesting to see how much further he can take this car on fumes. Michael Skurlock coming into the pit lane too now. Michael Skurlock is blinking. He's coming in early. Big moment there as he came in.
Now let's see if Ed Foster covers Michael Skurlock.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the front runners do now, and also if Skurlock gets a penalty for that, because he came very close to the dreaded cone of doom, that yellow cone on the entry there. If you tap that one, you're going to be in trouble. Danny G's coming in as well now, so Danny G's going to come in earlier than his teammates. His teammates came in a little bit earlier beforehand, but this time he's coming in. His teammates and everybody else just stayed out there. Danny G just having a very close moment too. Foster and everybody else is pitting as well. So Foster and Martin are pitted in. Jason Martin staying out there.
And Carl, it looks like there might be a moment here for Michael Skurlock. He's been stationary for a little while.
Yeah, Skurlock looks like he's definitely had a penalty there because he has been stationary for a long, long time. Penalty or something's happened there because he's going to lose a lap. He's going to lose almost a lap here on the way. He's lost a lap on the leaders now, so that is a big cost for Skurlock. And I think we might have been right in the fact that he got a penalty when he came in. He just clipped that cone or just came in a little bit too quickly, and he had to serve that penalty. So a real big shame there for Skurlock. That was a costly mistake.
Now, also Ed Foster's gotten out cleanly ahead of Jason Martin, about 1.8 seconds here. And so Jason Martin is on his own. So let's see if he is aero affected or if he was just sandbagging.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much pace Martin can carry forwards now. We'll find out in the next couple of laps how much that front end is affected on him, and we'll see if he can start gaining on Foster, because he's got a big gap to gain now. If he can't make that gap up, he's not going to be able to get it into the draft, and he's not going to be able to sort of counteract Foster from now on. With Skurlock dropping out the equation as well, that's one less person to worry about, one less person in that area. That last lap round, they set pretty much the same lap time, Foster and Martin. So Foster was a tiny bit quicker, but almost identical lap times there. We'll see how this one plays out for them. Lachlan Urquhart as well, now just pitting. He managed to get a nice lap lead point, so that's really handy for him. But it's going to be a big fight now between Foster and Martin.
And that's it. And Foster's already eked out a 2-second lead on Martin. So
Yeah, that last time around, Foster was a 28.9 and Martin was a 28.8, almost a 28.9 actually. So a bit slower there for Jason Martin. So he's going to get some lapped cars here. That might just help him a little bit. He'll better get just a little bit of a draft from them, catch up a little bit maybe. But that could be a big cost for him. Michael Skurlock's dropped all the way down to P11 now. Huge shame for Skurlock there. That's really, really scarpered his race.
yeah, absolutely. And he will be he'll really be hoping for a caution period now. That's really the only way that he's going to be able to make up any headway.
That's it. He's going to have to really try and get past Norman Clark and Lachlan Urquio now as well, because he's behind those two guys who are lapped down at the moment. So he's going to want to be that first car in line for the lucky dog if he can, because he's going to really be suffering down there. That last lap, Foster was a 29. Jason Martin was 28.8. Of course, there was some lapped cars around there, so we'll see what happens now. They're back out in some clean air. Foster still has a couple of cars in front of him, but not really putting up too much of a fight for him. So yeah, he's managing to get past pretty quickly now. So we should see those sort of times evening out. And as you say, Foster has got a good 2-second gap at the moment in the front.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you what, we're looking at Barry Neal here. He's had a hell of a race. He's made up 12 positions. He's in P5 at the moment. He's in front of Mickelmore, but Mickelmore is absolutely all over him. But yeah, he's done a great job so far tonight.
Yeah, Barry Neal's had a pretty quiet race. He started in 17th position. He's gained 12 positions this race, which is a very good thing to have under your belt. That really does say the racecraft of somebody, because again, sometimes in oval racing, in NASCAR racing, you might not be the fastest guy over a single lap, but your racing is where it counts. You can see Josh Mickelmore is really trying his best to get past Barry Neal, but we saw Mickelmore before that last set of cautions having a big moment up into the wall. And we've seen that his teammates been affected by a little bit of damage as well. So we'll have to see how that one plays out and see if they if Mickelmore manages to pass him. If he manages to pass him, how much faster can he go? So yeah, he's going to get a good little run down the inside now, but now he's out in the clean air. He's just struggling a little bit. He's going to get past Barry Neal here. Barry Neal's not putting too much pressure in, and you've got Raymond Yeager there just coming down, who's trying to work his way back up the field. He's currently chasing down Michael Skurlock, so he's having a good race there. But we'll see how this goes between Mickelmore and Neal, because we might see Neal getting a bit of a run back as he gets the car a bit settled and gets back into running the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. He's smart move by Neal too. Didn't argue the move at all. And we got a caution.
We've got a big caution. Oh, and Lachlan Urquio and Jason Martin have gone into each other as well. That is a big one there. So looking over it again, now we're going past Tristan Koch there, and Jason Martin is coming up there. Oh, look, Lachlan Urquio just went into the back of Jason Martin there. Big spin. That is a huge moment for Jason Martin. And there was a little bit of squabbling at the end there, and they both made big contact with each other. That is disastrous. Disastrous for Jason Martin.
Yeah, this is absolutely not what Jason Martin wanted to see at this stage of the race.
No, that's really going to affect him. Yeah, that is a huge shame, and that's going to really hurt Jason Martin. Hopefully he can keep going in this race, but it's going to be tricky now with that damage. Yeah, that's a big shame for Martin, because he was holding on well to Foster, and I was keeping an eye on the gap, and it wasn't that far off between them. But Martin's going to come in. He's going to be able to get a bit of repair done here in this pit stop.
And this is also going to play into Skurlock's hands.
Yeah, this could work out quite well for Skurlock, because he should be able to get his he might be able to get his lap back here and actually get back onto fighting. There's a few cars out of the race, unfortunately, as well. Quite a few cars got caught up in that. Tristan Koch got badly damaged, so unfortunately Tristan Koch has got quite a lot of damage there.
Yeah, Jason Martin's car is not looking good at all, so not sure what he's going to be able to do here.
Yeah, Jason Martin's going to keep pushing on, though. He's going to try his best to carry on here. Bit of a wounded animal, unfortunately, for Jason Martin, and that's a real shame as well. It's a damn shame there.
At this stage, it's really all about bagging points. He needs to get as many points as he can, and not let Foster get too far ahead of him.
That's it.
And this has played right into the hands of Bradley Allison, because he's now leading going into the caution period, although he's going to be up against Ed Foster with fresh tyres on the restart, so this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's it. He's going to have nice fresh tyres. It's going to be a tough restart for Allison.
Actually, it's showing. It's my timing was playing up there. It showed Allison leading, and then it showed Foster, and now it's back to Allison. So Allison will be on the low line for the restart.
Yeah, Allison's going to be ahead on that one, on that low line, but it's going to be his traction as he gets off. This could really affect Hamish Gallagher as well, because he's going to be on that low line. Jason Martin as well is going to be on that low line too. So he's going to have to just be a bit careful of that restart, because you might see Bradley Allison just losing a little bit of traction as he goes to put his foot down. But it's going to work out really well for Foster and Danny G. Danny G, Josh Micklemore, actually, both going to be on that outside line. So they're going to try and push it towards Foster and try and do their best to get past of him and hopefully mitigate the damage to Jason Martin in this race and keep him in the championship.
Yeah, that's going to certainly going to be their plan. This is going to be an interesting turn of events. So we've not seen a caution all night, and now in the closing stages of the race, here we go with the caution.
Yeah, we're going to have a sort of 36-lap run to the end now, and it's going to be a sprint race to the finish as the cars start lining up next to each other for the restart here. Bradley Allison's going to have a tough job ahead of him. He stayed out in that caution period. People like Michael Skurlock as well, Raymond Yeager stayed out in that caution period. They didn't really have much choice, unfortunately. They needed to stay out to basically get their laps back and get onto the lead laps. But they are going to be trying hard to catch their way back up there too. So Skurlock's got a point to prove tonight. He's going to want to try and get up there. But it's going to be interesting to see. And as you say, Bradley Allison's done a great job getting up there. I think the one to watch out for is going to be Barry Neal, because he's down there in 8th position at the moment. He's managed to get some fresh tyres back on there, and we've seen he's had some really good pace.
He's been really consistent all night long, and he's had great pace. He's behind Martin, so he's going to need to clear him. And I think with the damage that Martin's got on his car, we'll find quite a few guys getting around him. But he's a tough competitor to pass, so anything's possible.
Yeah, now the hard thing for Jason Martin now is to see how the car is under green. The pace car's gone in, the green light's going to come out. Brad Allison's taken a good start there. He's managed to make a good jump over the cars behind him. Jason Martin's just pulling down to the inside, allowing people just to go past him. Obviously, he does not have that pace to go full out at the moment. But Allison has managed to keep a good spot. And now you can see those fresh tyres coming into play as he gets absolutely mugged down the back straight by not one, not two, but three cars. And you're going to see Josh Micklemore as well coming past him relatively quickly. This has given Foster the chance to get back out into the lead. Danny G is going to be chasing him down, as well as Hamish Gallagher. Hamish Gallagher, as we said, playing that little bit of a different strategy game, where he pitted a little bit earlier. He got himself a little bit higher up the order from that stop because he had that little bit of the undercut. As Danny G and Gallagher there just both had the rear end step out on them. Big moments there for them. But Bradley Allison's putting a great job at the fighting there. He's managed to keep Micklemore behind him. Joshua Carroll-Walden managed to find the inside line there and get down there. Barry Neal's also catching up too. So Foster's managing to get out a good bit of lead now. He's going to want to try and break away from these guys, get a nice bit of a lead under his pocket and try and pull away. Meanwhile, Jason Martin has dropped back to the back of the queue, unfortunately, and he has lost a lot of speed in that car. So he's just going to be going around, just keeping out of everybody's way and just getting as many points as he can tonight.
Yeah.
But Foster's getting a good restart there, but Barry Neal is absolutely flying. He's managed to get past Micklemore. Now he's behind Bradley Allison, and I expect to see him dashing down the inside of him pretty soon.
Yeah, he's looking incredibly racy, going up the high line here. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before he makes short work of Bradley Allison.
Yeah, and you can see he's just going to fly past him as they go into the corner. They're able to take that high line. Brad's just not holding that line quite as well. He's on those slightly older tyres, couldn't keep the car going through too well, and this is going to allow Norman Clark to have a bit of a fight between him. He's going to catch up to those guys pretty soon as well. Up at the front, Foster is starting to pull a little bit of a gap over himself, but Hamish Gallagher is really pushing hard, as well as Danny G. Joshua Carroll-Walden's also come alive in this latter part of the race. He is pushing hard on the back of those cars, and he needs to stick to the back of those cars ahead of him. Otherwise, he's going to fall out behind because of that aero damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Danny G has been looking racy all night. Matter of fact, he's probably been one of the more consistent cars for the entire evening. So I think he's going to have a go here.
Yeah, he's definitely had some good pace under the belt, and he's had some good speed. We've seen it. He's had some good turns of speed. Foster's had to battle it out with all of the Mitch Motorsport cars tonight. He's had each of them following him for a number of laps, and now it's Danny G's turn to try and get past Foster. And Danny G might just be up for this one.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's looked racy. You can see there, you look at the times. We're actually looking at the time difference between Danny G and JCW there. First few laps, JCW was faster than Danny G, but I think Danny G's tyres have come on, and he's starting to make hay while the sun shines now.
Yeah, he's really got some good pace in that car.
Yeah, he's ranging right up onto Foster now.
He's sitting right on the rear spoiler of Foster. He's going to go up high, try and go around the outside. It's not going to work for him, but he's going to be able to cut the car underneath, and he's going to try and get the car for the low line now. Foster knows that. He has to turn the car a little bit harder than he wants. And you can see the back end just stepping out a little bit as he went around turn number 2 there, just so he could get down in front of Danny G, not allowing him that low line. As he comes into the corner again, Foster gets a little bit of a wiggle on. That's going to give Danny G the momentum as they come out of the corner. He's going to be faster down the straight here. They're going to go side by side as they cross the start-finish line, come into turn number 1. Danny G's not in the best position, but he's going to try again to go high, go low, and try and make Foster cover that low line, where he's going to have to turn the wheel a little bit more than he wants to, and keep that car going low.
So this
Danny G's putting some really good pressure on.
Absolutely. This is an interesting position for Foster. Foster now knows that Martin is way down and he's going to grab a bag of points now. Do you fight with Danny G, or if he looks like he's too racy, do you just sidestep him, let him go, and take second place?
Well, I think Foster would want a win for anything else. He's one of those drivers that he very much didn't expect to be in this position in the chase. I think he wants wins more than anything, and he is going to fight out this win as hard as he can. I've got the feeling we're going to see him put up a good battle between himself and Danny G. Just behind, you can see Hamish Gallagher now making a move on JCW, and that's brought Barry Neal into the fight as well, as JCW has to go out of the way of the car. He loses a bit of that draft, and that damage on the car starts to fall him back. And you can just see he just drops back behind Hamish Gallagher now. He doesn't quite have the pace off the straights when he hasn't got that draft in the car. So when he has to step out of line, he's starting to struggle a little bit. And that's the sort of thing that's really affecting him right now. and that's brought Barry Neal into play. I did say watch out for Barry Neal. He's made it up to 6th now. How much further will he make it from here?
Yeah, and we've seen this all night from Foster. He seems to be a little slow. He comes under attack, and then towards the second half of the stint, he comes alive and he's able to pull out a gap, and then that's pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, Foster seems to be having a much better long run stint. We said this before as well, we've heard it from Foster a few times, is he struggles with the short run, but it works much better in the long run, and that's definitely what's happening here tonight. Again, his short run pace isn't quite good, but the long run is better. Danny G just got a brilliant bit of draft there. He had to almost avoid Foster there. He just came right up and he's now got the inside. And he's got the inside of Foster, and this is going to be the move to take the lead of this race. Danny G is going to slot in front of Foster. Now Foster's going to have to come back and attack him. Will Foster get a good run through these corners? He's going to have to try the high line first because Danny G is going to stick it very low now. Foster's probably going to get a better entry into the corner. He doesn't. He eases off a little bit, and that's so he can try and get that underline as well. He's going to try and go down the inside line as well for Danny G. He's going to try the same move that Danny G did. So it's going to be interesting to see how Danny G defends this one now.
Yeah, this is really getting interesting now. 23 laps to go. And now we're seeing Foster starting to make a bit of time on Danny G.
Yeah, those guys are really racing each other hard. They are putting in some serious hard work to keep the cars there. Foster getting a much better run off the corner there. He's got the low line a little bit better. Danny G just losing the rear end this time round onto the straight. And Danny G, he comes right down there. Foster almost touching it as they go into the corner. They are nose to tail now as they come off of the turn number 4. Foster is really applying the screws now because he's got Hamish Gallagher catching right up to him. He needs to make this move, otherwise Hamish Gallagher could get past him. He's also got his teammate in JCW, Joshua Carroll-Walden there, putting on a good fight at the moment as they go past a stricken Jason Martin. Unfortunately, he goes a lap down. That car is really not looking in the best of condition, but he's going to keep it out there and keep going for some points at least. But now you can see Hamish Gallagher is putting the pressure on Foster. He's trying to get that low line. Foster needs to get past Danny G here, or he's going to have to defend against Hamish Gallagher. You can see Barry Neal as well getting racy behind Joshua Carroll-Walden. Those guys are really putting on the pressure. Foster tries for the high line. It's not going to work, and this is going to give Hamish Gallagher the chance to get underneath him, which he has done perfectly. Foster tried to cover him off. He didn't get the chance to do it. This is going to allow Hamish Gallagher to get that inside line. He hits the apron. Hamish Gallagher tapped the apron there, and that's going to lose him that position. A godsend for Foster there, and he might lose a position to Joshua Carroll-Walden as well. Foster's going to get a bit of respite now. He's going to have to work his way back up onto Danny G and start planning his attack once more.
Yeah, that really gave Foster a free kick there.
Yeah, that was a godsend to Foster, you could say. Just Hamish Gallagher just coming a little bit low there and just clipping the apron, managing to keep control of that car, which was a great job for him. Really well driven by Gallagher to keep control, because that's not an easy thing to do. The car really gets unbalanced there, and also you get a lot of air underneath the car. Ooh, Joshua Carroll-Walden just having a big bit of a tank slapper as he goes across the start-finish line there. And that's going to give Hamish Gallagher the chance to try and get past him. Obviously, JCW's not got that straight line speed. He's having to really block as he goes down the straights. His only saving place is going to be those corners. He's really going to have to work hard to keep them behind him in those corners. But the longer he does that, the further Foster and Danny G are going to get out in front.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be a bit of a plan by the JP Simshed guys. Try to use JCW as a bit of a block there and let Foster and Danny G get away, so Foster can start putting a bit of pressure on Danny G.
Yeah, it sort of worked out well for Foster there with Joshua Carroll-Walden being in that position. It paid off because with Hamish Gallagher making that slight mistake going on that apron, it really cost him dearly, because if he didn't want to be behind anyone, it was Danny G, because we see he just doesn't have that straight line pace. Through the corners he's fine, but as soon as he gets on the straight line, he's a couple of miles per hour, there's a couple of kilometers per hour slower than those cars ahead of him. And you can see Hamish Gallagher really pushing JCW wide. He's making him take the shortest line into the corners as much as he can. He's trying to force JCW to take a really short line into the corner and cost himself. But JCW is doing a great job of basically blocking the car behind him right now. He really is. He's moving it left and right, and he's just keeping that car in an awkward position where Hamish Gallagher just can't put up the fight. And this has allowed Barry Neal behind just to sit there, just keep composed, watch what's going on, and then he might be able to pounce a little bit later on.
He's waiting for one of these two to put a step wrong, and then he's going to be all over them if they do.
He is. Just a bit further back, Bradley Allison's putting up a good job as well. He's down there in 7th place at the moment, just behind Norman Clark. The tyres are starting to plateau now for him, so he's up to the similar pace of those guys around him. He's got Josh Mickelmore behind him, and then Michael Skurlock. And just heard there over the team radio, Barry Neal and Hamish Gallagher just coming up with a bit of a plan there with each other. Just saying, we'll go. You go one way, Hamish, I'll go the other. He can't block us both. So they know what's going on here. They can see with their own eyes. So they're planning an attack on JCW. Will JCW be able to hold this one off?
I think JCW's done his job. If they gang up on him, the best thing for JCW to do is to just hold the line and let him go.
Yeah, he's done a good job, and he's really sort of helped Foster just get back under there, get some composure. Gallagher just getting a good run up on the top now, but there is a lapped car just coming into play here, and that might be a bit hard, but Hamish Gallagher's going to hold it. He holds it round the corner. He just needs to hold it there for the exit of the corner, get a good run off the corner, and that could be the one. But he gets caught by that car. And that's allowed Barry Neal to come down. Hey, Joshua Carroll Walden has managed to retain that position after that great charge by Gallagher. That lapped car has really put a pin in the ideas of them. But now Barry Neal's got a good run. He's getting a good run up through turn number 1. Will he be able to hold the speed? Hamish Gallagher's going to try and push him along, give him a little bit of speed on the exit. This could be Barry Neal's chance to launch past Joshua Carroll Walden.
This is looking good.
Looking good here. They're going to run past.
Look at him, he just sails past him.
You can see that straight line speed difference with that car is a huge one, but he just loses a bit of time through the corner because he's having to go up high. But he should start gaining some speed again. You can see Hamish Gallagher just getting up to Barry Neal to try and almost push him along. Barry Neal just having a bit of a blink there on my screen. Hopefully that doesn't happen too much more because that could be a big thing. But that's cost him a little bit because he's just had to ease off the accelerator a little bit. And he just makes contact with Hamish Gallagher there. So they still can't get past Joshua Carroll Walden. And I think they're starting to get a little bit annoyed about it. And you've got to be careful in these situations because it's quite easy to make a mistake when you're dicing around at almost 300 kilometers per hour.
Absolutely. And look, JCW has probably done his job and then some. He's allowed the front runners to skip away now. They're 2-3 seconds down the road. But what we're seeing Danny G pulling away slightly from Ed Foster. I don't think Ed's got anything for Danny at the moment.
No, I think Danny G has just got the pace. We've seen it all night. He has been fast. And the last couple of laps, Danny G has just been setting... that last lap, they just set identical lap times, in fact. They are really, really close to each other, and there's nothing between the two of them. But Danny G just seems to have the ability just to hold on that little bit. And we've seen Danny G all night. We said he's been fast, and now he's got a chance to lead. We can just see how fast he is.
Yeah, 100%. And all the while, I don't know which way to go. Whether we look at the guys at the front here, or we look at the next three behind them, because this is getting really intense.
Yeah, and just back there with Barry Neal and Joshua Carroll Walden. Barry Neal just making a big pendulum movement across the start-finish line, trying to throw the dummy on Joshua Carroll Walden. And it kind of works because Joshua Carroll Walden went down to sort of position his car to stop Barry Neal. But he's managed to get the inside line again. And Barry Neal just can't keep the car there. He's managed to get a good run off this time. He might have the pace to get past JCW now. He's going to be able to run down this front straight. And he's just got to keep the car nice and firm through this corner. He just needs a good runoff of turn number 2, which he can't seem to do. JCW just has the run through turn number 2.
And look at Barry Neal just going to the inside, looking outside, looking inside. He just cannot get by, and this is where frustration sets in, and something can go pear-shaped very, very quickly.
It can, as you see Barry Neal there, just right on the back of JCW there. Nothing between the two. You couldn't fit a cigarette paper between those two cars just then. But yeah, Joshua Carroll just has great drive off the corner, and that's just sticking to that low line. Like earlier on in the race, we saw with Michael Skurlock. He just has a really good run off the corner, and that's giving him the ability to just stay ahead of Barry Neal. And Barry Neal's just getting a good run off the straight. He's got great front straight line speed. He's got great grip in the car. The car's feeling great for him, but unless he can get that low line, he's not going to be able to make this move on JCW.
No, and this is a legit move for position. JCW is holding down third place. He doesn't have to get out of the way for anyone.
No, it's his position, and he's entitled to it. And sure, you might not be the fastest car out there, but as long as you can stay ahead of that car behind you, it's your place to keep. And he's doing a great job of recovering that car from that earlier damage. We saw that JCW had some good pace when he qualified up in 4th place. But we've seen all race long, Barry Neal has been siving his way through the field. Starting 17th, he's now into 4th. That's 13 positions gained this race. He is doing a great job. Looks like Hamish Gallagher's starting to drop off a little bit. He's just struggling a little bit now. Really unfortunate for him. A little bit further back, Brad Allison has managed to get a good run on those tyres again. He's managed to get back up to 6th position. So he's managed to get a really good run on those tyres now. And those older tyres are starting to pay off for him now, as everybody else has plateaued around him. Got a little bit further back, Michael Skurlock is still on the charge. He's trying to chase down Josh Micklemore at the moment, which he's kind of doing. He's getting a bit closer at every lap, but he's still got quite a few car lengths between them, and I don't think he'll get there before the end of this race, which is only 1 lap to go on this one now. The Hybrid Racing Solutions white flag will be out for this one. Danny G has got a really good lead over Edward Foster, and he's managing to hold it there. Foster really can't do anything since Danny G got past. There's not much Foster can do.
No, he hasn't had an answer for Danny G once he got past him, and we knew that Danny G was going to be strong. He's been really strong all night, and I guess this is the place where you want to do it on that restart. And like you said, it doesn't matter how much you've led during the night. Most important one is going across that finish line on the last lap first.
Yeah, that's the important one, and he did that so very well. Really good job for him. He just did a fantastic drive there.
Absolutely. I tell you what, hats off to JCW. That was probably the drive of the night, keeping those other guys behind him.
Yeah, he did a great job holding them back. He did a fantastic job there, and really kept the pressure. Danny G just holding the pressure through it all as well. He just got there so well and had that pace all night long. We saw it when he was fighting his teammates. He was able to hold those positions. Yeah, great job from Danny G. Strong race from Foster as well. He managed to keep that second place in the end. Strong fight for him. On a track where he said he was not looking forward to. This wasn't his favourite track, and he didn't think he'd do too well here tonight. He qualified second, he finished second. You can't ask much more for that. Brilliant drive for Barry Neal there in 4th place as well. He got caught up behind JCW, but 13 places tonight on this very tricky track where there is not much passing.
Absolutely, and the Jason Martin still managed to finish in 11th, but this is really going to have some big championship implications.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to hurt him in the championship, and that's going to be a real shame for him. So we'll see how that one goes. Hopefully, hopefully things can come back to him as well. We have seen that in ANZCAR. You might have a bad result tonight, but Foster might have an even worse one next week. It's not over yet. There are still 2 races to go in the chase. So it could still go wrong for Foster. It's not set in stone yet. And all that needs to happen is for Jason Martin to have 2 wins from now on. He could have 2 amazing races, and that's it. He's got the championship done. So it's not out by a long shot. And managing to keep the car there and finish in 11th place, only 1 lap down in the end, Jason Martin. Good result for him, and he managed to really make the best of the bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly not over by any stretch of the imagination. It comes down to there's 2 rounds to go, and anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and in motorsport, it usually does happen. That's definitely, as the old saying goes. But what we'll do is we'll just grab down our 3rd place position finisher, Joshua Carroll-Walden.
I've been napping while you've been saying that, so let me see if I can find JCW, and I'll bring him into the broadcast booth, and maybe he's actually been able to take a breath now, and he'll be able to talk to us. That was an awesome run.
That, or he's blocking us from bringing him down to the booth. He did do some serious blocking out there tonight, and maybe he's keeping it up. But we have with us Joshua Carroll-Walden. Very well-deserved P3 tonight. A lot of hard work to keep those guys behind you there.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, that was pretty hard work there, but yeah. Basically, you probably would have seen Hamish got past me a few laps before that battle started to happen. So yeah, like I knew if I was going to leave space that they'd go past me. So I was like, I just stood my ground and basically just said no. I physically said no when Barry Neal first had a look and head into turn 3, and yeah, from then on I just had no other objective other than to keep those 2 behind me.
And keeping behind you, you did. You did some serious moves there, and just some really good defensive driving all in all. Obviously, the low line was working for you. We were watching you go around there, and you just seemed to have just a little bit better run off the corner on the exit than those guys riding the high line.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, like, it definitely got a bit hairy at times. Like, I knew that, if you did stick it quite tightly on the middle lane through 1 and 2, right next to the car on the inside, you could, potentially stay there. And yeah, bit surprised that neither Hamish or Barry chose to give me the bumper or make a pass through the grass. But yeah, they just, I just managed to burn their tyres off, and yeah, just managed to keep my car clean for the most part. And yeah, like to go from being basically backwards on pit entry on my first pit stop to P3, I've got to be happy with that.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you about that because, yeah, you did have some damage on the car, obviously. You caught a bit of the wall as well. And how much did that affect you through the race?
Man, I was plummeting like a rock. If that, caution didn't come out, I would have finished flat down and probably in 13th place or something. So, yeah, I was told it was only 30 seconds of repairs, and I got it all fixed up before that final sprint home. So yeah, it definitely did, hurt me a bit because, yeah, basically what happened was, first up I hit the outside wall in turn 4, then came together with another car, with a lap car, and on the entry to turn 1, and then the third piece of contact was the spin in pit lane, and I actually hit the front of the hit the wall with the front of my car. So yeah, it was looking like a really, really poor race up until the caution came out, and basically I told the guys, that I got four fresh tyres, damage is all fixed, and I'm going to be coming in hot, and coming in hot I did. It was a bit ballsy going with three wide with Bradley Allison and Mika Moore on the edge of the 2, but yeah, got it done.
Yeah, it ended up working out for you, and work out well it did. And as you say that, you nearly had a very embarrassing night, but it turned out into a good one with a top 3 finish for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there were definitely times in the race where I just wanted to be over, and that first green flag stint went on for so long, and then just took my opportunity. Basically took the second chance, really took the second opportunity, and made the most of it.
And yeah, as we say, you did a great job there towards the end, and it's another strong finish for you for a very strong season as well. It's been a good season so far for you. Only 2 races to go in the chase, obviously, but it looks like you're going to be in good contention to be the best of the rest finisher.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really know where Jaeger finished today, but there were a lot of damaged cars at the end of that race, so I don't really know, but yeah, it's definitely looking really good. But yeah, Martinsville next week, track I absolutely love. I should do pretty well there next week, and then Phoenix, it just really depends on what the race in Phoenix is going to be like. So yeah, it's looking good. But yeah, just got to take it 1 week at a time, and only 2 races to go, guys. This year's gone in a flash.
It has indeed. And before we let you go, of course, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to for tonight?
Yeah, shout out to the boys at JP Simshed, the Stockcar team especially. Shout out to Ed, really good second place tonight. Jason Hardigan as well. He had some technical difficulties, which probably robbed him of a fantastic result tonight. Shout out to Norman as well. He put in a pretty decent race. Shout out to Lockie too. Lockie had I won't comment on Lockie's night, but it is what it is. Sponsors as well, making sure we are able to do what we do. Brooksy Australia, Goodyear Autocare Warana, Track Racer, VR Covers, Cars for Hope, Nationwide Tracking Systems, Dragon RC, Racing with Autism Australia, and shout out as well to the lime green tape that's currently holding my wheel together because my wheel actually fell apart last night. So yeah, if you want to have a look at the photos, I'll make sure to post them in the on the ANZCAR Facebook underneath the Facebook post for this race. So yeah, if you want to see the quick odd job I did last night on my wheel, then be sure to check that out.
100-mile-per-hour tape saving many a racer's race in the end of the day. Cheers, Joshua. Well, we will see you again soon.
Yep, no worries. Thanks, guys.
JCW there for the JP Simshed team. Next up, we'll grab his teammate and second place finisher, Edward Foster. Edward Foster, congratulations on that P2 tonight. Started second, finished second. It was a bit more eventful than what it looks like on paper, but a very strong race for you tonight.
Yeah, it was an intense one. I think I said last week that I don't really enjoy the new layout of Texas. The way it's sort of been done, it's very, very tricky to keep the car balanced, and managed to. As I said, we need to make the car like it, and I managed to make the car like it. So it was going well. We were running around out the front. I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't come away with the win because I felt like we dominated and just pulling away from everybody else. We had our last pit stop out the way, and we were just going to be driving home. We had a couple of seconds over Martin there, and I thought we could probably hold that gap. And then the caution came out, brought everyone back together, and Danny was just too strong. Credit to him. He figured it out at the right time of the race and got the job done. So, we're obviously good mates, Danny and I. We run ANZCAR together, so I'm happy to see him win. I obviously prefer to see myself win, but it's been a while between drinks for him, so good on him.
Yeah, he had an excellent performance out there tonight and was really strong through the mid-pack. Obviously, you pretty much raced everyone at the top tonight. You pretty much had to hold off all of the top drivers there throughout the race. You're racing with everybody, it seems like. And all the Mitch Motorsport cars were having a good battle with you. Just on that sort of second pit stop, how tight was it for fuel getting towards the end of the race? Were you looking pretty good, or were you sort of just starting to have to ease off a little bit to make it for that second stop to get to the end?
No, we are absolutely fine. We had around about just over 60 laps under normal circumstances of fuel range. So we were pitting with just under, I think just under 60 to go. We pitted. I think it may have even been about 52, 50 to go. So yeah, either way, we were very, very comfortable on fuel. No problem at all.
Yeah, we're discussing that up in the box, trying to work out, always trying to work out what strategies are happening and how fuel is going. But yeah, it looks like you were pretty comfortable when you came in. Obviously, this is looking good for you. When we spoke to you last time, you said, it's easier being the one chasing than being the one chased. And obviously tonight, from tonight onwards, you have been chased. Tonight was the first time having it happen, and you've got 2 more races to go with it. How are you feeling for the rest of the chase coming up for it?
Yeah, look, I suppose getting in the championship lead last time round, and I haven't even looked at the numbers, to be honest. I don't even actually know where Martin finished, but I know he wasn't on the lead lap. So, look, we'll have a look at how many points there are between he and I, and we'll try to obviously, just manage that to the end of the season. We still got to keep the aggression up. We still got to keep driving hard and everything. We can't afford to be dropping massive amounts of points or anything like that. But yeah, certainly there's a bit of a points gap now going in the last couple of races. We've chased down so many points, yeah, it's where I kind of got to a point around about Bristol where I pretty much just said to myself, look, I've got to beat Martin every race from now on. And I've never done that. I've never done that before. And yeah, at the moment, it's just all coming my way. As I say, I really feel a little bit deflated because I feel like I should have won this race. But I'll take the consolation prize of an increased championship lead.
Yeah, look, I never forget the things you tell me when I was first starting the ANZCAR commentary. You just said, Jason Martin, he's just going to win every race. And he is such
I did say that, I think.
Yes, you did. And look, it still stands. He is such a strong competitor, and you've been having such a strong end to the season. Congratulations on that, and good luck with the rest of it. Hopefully you can keep it going.
Yeah, look, we're going to try to. The whole team's been working really well. So, we'll try. We've got 2 races to go. Martinsville, last time round, I was having a really good run. I ended up getting punted, but it was a really strong run for me, that particular track. So I'm looking forward to it. I do like the short tracks. So, yeah, we'll go there. We'll put our best foot forward and see what we can do. Phoenix has never really been somewhere where I've run that well, but we'll see how we can go there too.
Wonderful. And before we let you go, of course, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
Yeah, certainly. Just obviously Goodyear Auto Care Warana for continuing their great partnership with us here. We got, of course, Nationwide Tracking Systems as well. We've got, sorry, I'm having an absolute mental blank. I'm exhausted. We've got Dragon RC and Broodsy Racewear, of course, as well. So we've got so many guys on the car that help us along. So it's absolutely fantastic, and hopefully we can grab another win for them before the year's out. I would have liked to get tonight, but we'll see if we can win one of the remaining 2.
Sure, we'll hopefully see you. Well, I'm sure we'll see you back in the booth before the end of the season. Good luck for the next couple of races, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, certainly, guys. Thanks.
Edward Foster there for the JP Simshed team. Another strong finish for him, having a really strong end to the season. And speaking of people who had a good strong finish for the race for Danny G for Mitch Motorsport. Danny G, how are you going?
Very well, fellas. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. You had some really good pace throughout that whole race. We were watching you throughout the whole race. It didn't look like you had the best qualifying session, but in the race trim, it looked like you had this thing absolutely sorted out.
It's not just this race, man. I mean, my chase campaign has been horrible. But I think I've been up there 3-4 races I should have won. And I've just found something with this car on the 1.5 milers anyway, just throttle control, and it's just working. And over the long run, longer the run goes, it does pretty well. So at the start of the race, I was just sort of sandbagging a little bit in 8th and just let them get away. They were racing pretty hard, so I didn't want to get into it. And then I just picked them off one by one. And yeah, I thought I've got a good shot in the long run here. I like it. And yeah, I just saw the opportunity and took it. And I honestly thought, well, Edward's got a lot more to lose with the championship, so I'm just going to have to block as hard as I can. And I hope he realises that and didn't take me out. And that was good racing, Edward. Yeah, it was just unreal, really.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And as you said, you've had some unfortunate things happen in the chase campaign for you. It's not been. You've had a really strong start to the season, of course, and it looks like you're having a strong finish to the season as well, with another win under the belt, of course. That's I think win number 2 for you this season, which really, it feels like there should have been so many more for you this year. It feels like you've had more, but you've had some strong races. Obviously, you say I'm looked a bit on these 1.5 mile ovals, and we've seen it with you. You've just this year you've just been getting really quite confident with the car, and much more confident with sort of keeping positions and just pushing for it as well.
Yeah, I think so. I've been doing iRacing for 3.5 years now, and yeah, it's just I've sort of learnt the tracks now and what to do. I mean, it's a little bit different because every 4 weeks or whatever, you've got to learn what the car now does with the tyres. And I think like for what it is right now with the tyres, and I must just be all right at it, or I seem to sort of know what I'm doing with the throttle. That's the big thing. I realised Las Vegas. I should have had that one if it didn't go green. I thought, yeah, I just knew what I was doing with that throttle, and the same happened. I think last week at Kansas, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I've got this, and then for some reason, halfway through the run tonight, I'm like, it's acting exactly the same. So I just sort of knew what to do.
That's good to hear. We won't ask you what your secret is, of course, because we don't want to give that out. But it's good to hear that you've got it working for you, and that's the thing is these drivers have it working in all different ways. And we saw yourself like you had some really good battles with Josh Micklemore as well. We saw you battling with your teammate very hard early on in the race, and that must be quite fun when you sort of get the better of the get the better of people like Josh Micklemore and stuff like that. It must give you a bit of a smile.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Josh races really hard. Yeah. And then he pulls off the corner on the top side and gets around you. It is a little bit daunting though, racing teammates like that. So, yeah, we're pretty good, pretty clean.
No, absolutely, and just brilliant racing from you. We were watching you for pretty much throughout the whole race. We saw some really good passes for position. You gave us a good, entertaining race, so thank you so much for that. Before we let you go, of course, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to for tonight?
Yeah, definitely. You guys in the booth, Bob King's Paints, and just their team, Mitch Motorsports, Jace, Josh for the all the effort and putting up with me. Yeah.
No, absolutely, and thank you so much for giving us the action to call. Because if it wasn't for your great driving, we wouldn't have so many fun things to call on. So we need the drivers out there for that to happen. But congratulations on the second win of the season. As I said, I was pretty sure you'd had more than that this season, but yeah, you've had some really strong races this year, and not being the greatest chase for you, as you said, but obviously going to go strong into next year for you.
Cheers, fellas. Yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to next year. I'm looking forward to this year being over.
Thank you so much, Danny G. We'll catch you again soon. Danny G there for the Mitch Motorsport team, getting the win for this race. Absolutely brilliant win there for Danny G, JP.
Yeah, absolutely, and we saw it. We saw him just staying consistent the whole race long and just picking people off one at a time, and then he just picked his moment perfectly. And once he was ahead of Foster, that was it. That was all she said. Foster didn't. He just couldn't have an answer for him.
Yeah, we saw him try a couple of little attempts, but he just obviously the thought of the championship just crept in, and as Danny G said, Foster has the lead of the championship now, so he has to think about that aspect. So he made that move stick, and he just played it perfectly. And as I said, another big shout out for Barry Neal as well. A brilliant race. I've got hiccups all through this race. It's been terrible, but brilliant drive for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, that has to be the drive of the night. Up 13 places to finish in fourth. Absolutely monster JCW there towards the end. Had a couple of looks, had a couple of opportunities there that he couldn't close out. But all in all, that was a great run by the number 18 driver.
Yeah, that's it. And he's had this is his 9th race this season in the Cup Series. And you got to think, must have had more than that, with that kind of performance. But he's had a 1 top 5 finish and 2 top 10 finishes. So he's having some good positions, and he definitely showed it tonight. Hopefully we'll see him coming back next year with a bit of a stronger season and able to make some good gains next year, because it's looking tasty as well. It's looking tasty for the rest of the season, but you're seeing so many young drivers come up, so many new drivers come up through the championship this year, that it's looking harder and harder for the people like Jason Martin, Josh Micklemore, Edward Foster. They really, Michael Skurlock as well, of course. They've got a lot more competition, and they can't afford even a slightest mistake anymore.
100%, yeah. These guys have to be right on their game now because there's a lot of talent just chasing after them.
Yeah, that's it. And, we've seen that with people taking wins this year. There have been so many different winners this season than we normally see, and a lot of first-time winners as well, which is great to see, something we really love to see in the championship. So we'll call that a night, I reckon. So thank you so much, JP. Thank you so much to all the viewers out there as well, and of course the sponsors, Abruzzi for the ANZCAR Cup, Track Cams for Gourmet, and of course for those beautiful camera angles. And I'll let you go over the other sponsors, JP, because I always forget those ones.
Yep, so we've got, of course, Abruzzi Australia, Track Cams for Gourmet. You've already mentioned that. Yeah, those camera angles are absolutely fantastic. If you're a broadcaster, a streamer, absolutely check them out. Trackcams22.com. Virtual Motorsport Mentor. We've also iLiveries that did a lot of the overlays on our original broadcast streams, but now we're actually using SDK gaming for our broadcasting. But they do amazing iRacing paints as well as whatever else you can think of. So yeah, they've done fantastic, and without all of those sponsors, and of course hybrid racing simulations, without those sponsors, we couldn't have this series and we couldn't do what we're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all of them for all of their love and helping us out this year, and hopefully we've been helping them out too. Check them all out if you're in the need for anything like that. But for this evening, we'll wish you a good night, and we'll see you next time out for the penultimate ANZCAR Cup chase final.